Assalamualaikum and good evening to doctor and friends. Today I will discuss on the Malaysian housing issue for the subject of financial market and institution. My name is Nomila binti Osman. So basically, first I will go through the introduction and then we will discuss about the issues that I will discuss in this presentation, and lastly we come to the conclusion. For the introduction, we will see the first what is the housing industry meant. The right to housing is a basic need, while a good quality and affordable housing is a reflection of a high quality of life. However, housing remains a major problem for most, especially for the middle and lower income group. Then, according to Yusuf and Abidin, 2007, housing industry has been using conventional development methods for many years because of the increasing demand for better dwellings, the continuous changes in technology, the increase in the construction costs, and the tightness of the environmental policies, and the concepts of innovation, creation, and state-of-the-art design, all of which have begun to find their place in the industry. So basically, we will have 5 issues we'll be discussing in this presentation. The first is the housing prices. The second issue is the does price offer affordable to all of us. Then the third issue is the title lending by the financial institution. Fourth issue is increasing in the household debt, and the last issue is Malaysia having a housing bubble. For the first issue, which is the housing prices, according to a recent report titled Making Housing Affordable by Khazanah Research Institute, a government think tank, the Malaysian all-house price had rose at a compounded annual growth rate CAGR of 3.1% from 2000 to 2009. However, between 2009 and 2014, it grew at a CAGR of 10.1%, which was almost 3 times more than from 2000 to 2009. A sharp rise in housing prices can be observed in most rapidly developing countries. Now, when housing prices sharply rise, the investors start fixing the profit. The offer is growing, and this can lead to market stagnation or even recession. There are studies have been made mention that not only the developing countries but a number of highly developed countries such as Japan, Spain, USA and others has experienced a sharp rise of housing prices and the subsequent market recession. Why is the housing pricing rise? According to Z 2001, the gross domestic product, GDP, population and RPGT are the key determinants of housing prices. Nowadays, as the population in Malaysia is continuing to increase, people need more house to live in. As at 1 January 2016, population of Malaysia was estimated to be 30,572,000 people. But then, the Malaysian population is projected to increase by 463,000 people, which will be increased to 31 million people in the beginning of 2017. During the year 2015, the nationwide house price index was rose by 5.43%, and then down from an annual rise of 7.88% from the previous year. According to the Valuation and Property Service Department, on a quarterly basis, the index was increased on 0.8% in 2015. They also stated that Malaysia's average house price stood at 312,000 ringgit in 2015. The terrace house average price rose about to 278,000 ringgit. The high residential properties average price rose to 296,000 ringgit. The detached house average price rose to 524,000 ringgit, and the semi-detached house average price was increased to 470,000 ringgit. For the issue number 2, does price offer affordable to all? With the higher price of house, the question is whether everyone can afford to buy the houses, especially those in the middle and lower income group. Lower income people do not have the alternatives to choose for a quality house, and they also do not have many options to rent or buy an affordable house in the center of town due to financial constraints. These people who have spent a long time commuting from the suburb to the workplace located in the city. They also face many problems such as air and noise pollution and traffic congestions every day. Housing affordability is aimed to ensure the housing provided is affordable by every income earner group, whether low income, middle income, and high income. Housing affordability is not a feature of housing, but a feature of housing service in relation to consumer capacity and desire to own or buy houses. Many studies have agreed that housing affordability measurement is complex. As for the Gun and Hill, they have studied in comparing two towns in two cities. They have classified the measurement of housing affordability into three distinctive measures, which is purchase affordability, repayment affordability, and income affordability. To make home buying possible for people on low and medium incomes and young people, the government has in July 2011 launched Malaysian People's Housing or PRIMA. The developers are as a result switching from high-end developments to mid-range to lure first-time buyers with easier financing and omission of stamp duty for houses below 300,000 ringgit and borrowers with a monthly income up to 7,000 ringgit per month are qualified for this scheme. In the recent Budget 2017 announcement, the government also introduced some other incentives such as a step-up and financing scheme for Prima with financing up to 100% effective 1st January 2017. This is in collaboration with Bank Negara Malaysia, the Employees Provident Fund, Lion Banking Berhad, CIMB Group Holdings Berhad, RHB Bank Berhad, M Bank Berhad. The higher housing loans for civil servant has been increased from 200,000 ringgit to 700,000 ringgit compared to 120,000 ringgit to 600,000 ringgit previously. The government also made announcements that the GLCs and Prima will be built houses on government land that will be benefit to government servants and first time house owners as well. For issue number 3, title lending by financial institution. Despite the incentive made by the government, home buyers continue to find difficulty to finance their purchase of affordable homes. Why this is happened? This is because the lending policy regulated by Bank Negara Malaysia Berhad has been tightening for these several years. Bank Negara Malaysia introduced a stricter lending guidelines on 1st January 2012, which requiring mortgage eligibility assessment to be based on a net income, considering statutory deduction for tax, employees' provident fund contributions and all other debt obligations. In July 2013, Bank Negara Malaysia once again reinforced a responsible lending practices which the new maximum home loan period was reduced to 35 years from the previous period of 45 years, and the maximum personal loan period was shortened to 10 years from 35 years, and there is no pre-approved financing product has been no longer possible to be made. The strict debt to income ratio for loan qualification is to address the country's growing household debt. Bank Negara has made a major move in monetary policy. Bank Negara has, for the first 7 years, reducing its interest rate. As per statement made by Bank Negara, the reduce on overnight policy rate by 25 basis point to 3%, citing that this is coming from the rising risk from Britain's exit from the European Union. Subsequently, this move will hope to boost the property market. But the problem is not the interest rate. The problem actually is the lending liquidity. In October 2015, total housing loan outstanding rose by 11.2% to 413 billion from the same period last year. However, despite the continued growth of the mortgage market, the loan rejection rates in Malaysia were estimated to be as high as 70%, adversely impacting the residential property market. In fact, during the first half of 2015, the amount of loan approvals for purchase of residential property has been dropped 25.8% from the same period last year. Issue number 4, which is increasing in the household debt. Household debt is defined as the amount of money that all adults in the household owe to the financial institution. This includes consumer debts and mortgage loans. According to the Bank Negara, Malaysia's household debt to gross domestic product ratio has been increased to 89.1% from last year. Almost everyone agrees that large amounts of debt are terrible and a drag on the economy. In fact, at 89.1%, Malaysia has one of the highest household debts in the region. Could the risk of high household debt worsen the economic situation of a country in the event of an economic shock? A significant rise in the level of this debt coincides historically with many several economic crises and was the main cause for the US and European economic crisis of 2007 to 2012. Households that are highly leveraged have more than half of their loans in fixed rate financing, which reduce the sensitivity to changes in financing costs. Then in the report, the Bank Negara notions that the risk to the domestic financial stability from household leverage was being mitigated by sound underwriting standards and risk management by banks, which accounted for 80% of financing to households. The average lending rate for banks in 2015 was 5.1% compared with 4.9% in 2014. But then, with the current environment, we would not know if the lower income group goes to the informal channels to borrow money. This will in fact mean more debt. With the high cost of living, GST and weak ringgit, people in the group basically which earning below 3,000, this group are suffering. They will continue to be leveraged and will surely need to draw down from their savings. Last issue, is Malaysia having a housing bubbles? Soaring house prices have made home ownership a distant dream for many, stalling their way to a better life. The house price trend seen in the Malaysian market over the past 15 years is a worrying phenomenon because it is a vital sign of a booming market. The building up housing bubble and history shows that a collapse or burst will likely to follow. Hussein et al. Says bubble was measured as the difference between house price and the intrinsic value. And then another definition is housing bubbles represent an extreme movements of house prices rising rapidly about 20% per year for 2 or 3 consecutive years and then falling just as rapidly in the following 2 or 3 years. This means that any housing bubble should consist of a price booming period and then burst, which is characterized by a rapid fall in prices for a certain length of time. As per Duho 2008, the US subprime mortgage crisis is resulted from the credit expansions while its housing market boom. The crisis emerged because of high delinquencies and foreclosure when the borrowers lost solvency under new situation that the interest rose and the housing price dropped. The crisis has made a great impact on US economy. The housing price continuing dropping, consumption and investment shrinking, slowdown in manufacturing and higher rate of unemployment. The continued interest rate cutting by Fed has also given a bad impact in the housing market. In Malaysia, however, according to the study conducted by YIP 2015, housing bubble burst is not imminent as yet in Malaysia, which is in agreement with Bank Negara Malaysia report. However, findings reveal that Malaysia has been experiencing a continuous and increasingly steeper upward movement of house prices without breaks since mid-2009. As for the conclusion, Malaysian housing market has been experiencing increasing house price over a few years. With the slower growth in GDP and higher cost of living, the capability and liquidity to own a house has been declined. Increase in household debt also one of the factors that most of the people cannot afford to own a house. With the housing prices skyrocketed, Malaysia's young population appears destined for a lifetime in rented housing or living with their parents or relatives. The government has always paid particular attention to providing homes for the lower income group, but an emerging concern is the housing needs of middle income households who are neither eligible for social housing nor able to afford houses. Then this trend has indicated that both the bottom 40% and middle 40% of income earners are likely to require social housing if interventions are not forthcoming. The government must make an effort to have what we call a healthy price correction in the housing market, urgent need in providing reasonably priced, well-situated homes to cater to households of different income segments. Fake demand caused by the speculator must be managed wisely by the government. Fake demand had caused more houses to be built. To overcome the fake demand, Bank Negara should tighten loans for developers, forcing them to sell completed properties at an affordable price. That's all for my presentation. Thank you for listening.